Assalamualaikum and good day to Dr. Noor Azikin. We are from Group 2 and today we will be presenting on Brown and Levinson model of politeness, which is one of the most influential frameworks in understanding how politeness works in communication. Before we begin, I would like to introduce my group members. The first one is Noor Ameera Adilla binti Harun. Next is Noor Hajar Hannani binti Ahmad Sabri. Siti Khatijah binti Muhammad Sanusi, and last but not least is Natasha binti Nazaimi. Here is the outline of our presentation. We will begin with the introduction. Next, we will explain the concept of phase, followed by phase threatening acts or FTA. After that, we will move into the two main politeness strategies in Brown and Levinson model, which positive politeness and negative politeness. Then we will briefly touch on cultural considerations, and finally we will end with the conclusion. With that, we will now begin with the introduction. To begin, politeness, according to Flowerdew 2013, is the use of language and behavior to encourage good relations between the participants. So, it is about how we use communication strategically to build and maintain a positive relationships. So, this influential model was developed by Penelope Brown and Stephen Levinson in 1978 and later revised in 1987. So the 1987 version is the one most commonly used today because it is more comprehensive and refined. So this shows how theories can be improved and expanded as researchers can learn more. Okay, now let's look at the core of the model. So the main focus is understanding how politeness operates in interaction by examining how the speakers manage face-threatening acts or FTA. So my group member will explain about the FTA in more detail in the next session. But first, let's understand the foundation of the theory. So Brown and Levinson model is based on Goffman in 1971 concept of face, which refers to a person's public self-image or reputation. So think of it as your social dignity. We all want to maintain a positive image at work, in our family, or with our friends. So the entire model is built on the idea that people care about protecting their face during communication. So that's why we use politeness strategies to protect both our own face and the other person's face.
Now let's move on to the concept of face. According to Brown and Levinson, as cited in Flowerdew 2013, face is the public self-image that every member wants to claim for himself.
Next, we will move on to face. Face consists of two desires which interact attribute to one another in communications, positive and negative. According to Flowerdew and Alpatraz, positive politeness is based on a person's desire to be accepted, approved of, and liked by others. So this is what we call listeners' positive face, which means the listeners need to feel approved when someone is talking to them. The main purpose of positive politeness is to show solidarity and create a sense of closeness between speakers. In a simple word, when we use positive politeness, we are trying to make the listeners feel accepted or approved. Positive politeness often use compliments or expressions. Example from Alpatraz, "What a beautiful hat you are wearing." Even though this is direct, it makes the listeners feel good, and this is exactly how positive politeness works. Next is negative politeness. According to Flowerdew, it is related to a person's desire to be unimpeded, meaning they don't want to be controlled or pressured by others. The main purpose of negative politeness is to maintain the listener's space. In other words, the speakers want to respect the listener's space and avoid sounding too direct or pushy. So this will help prevent listeners from feeling uncomfortable. Negative politeness is usually shown through polite and indirect language. For example, from Alpatraz, when someone said, "Can you pass the salt?" the speaker is making a request, but very in indirect and respectful way. The speakers don't want to sound pushy, and this is exactly how negative politeness works.
Now let's move on to face-threatening acts. which is also known as FTA. In order to act according to their face wants, the interaction between people are assumed to be guided by rationality. People will work towards their rational purpose, which is to satisfy what the face wants and apply them rationally together during communication. This will result in a positive and negative politeness strategy. The true strategies exist when the actions of speech acts cause risk to face, which are called FTA. Here are the framework of the FTA according to Brown and Levinson, which shows that we can choose either do the FTA or don't do the FTA. In performing FTA, there are 5 options. One option is do the FTA, where they will be divided into 2 fractions. For the first part is on-record politeness, which means directly, also mean the word used directly correspond to the intended meaning. The speaker align their utterance to the hearer's face through a range of different politeness strategies while remaining on record about their communicative intentions. There are 2 options under on-record politeness. The first option is without redressive actions, where we take one of the situations from Kenny and Walker book, where the speaker wanted his roommate to turn down their music, so the utterance would be turn your music down. It is maximally direct because it gets to the point. The second option is with redressive action. Redressive is a strategies that are oriented to the hearer positive or negative face or both. So refer back to the situations. For this part, the utterance would be as stated in the slide, where we can see that the speaker acknowledge the value of the music. So in this way, it attends to the positive face of the roommate by buttering them up before hitting them with what the speaker wants. Also, the utterance risks the speaker positive face in asking. So from the example, we can see that people can soften FTA by redressive actions with choosing the strategies that work to minimize threats to face. Next part is off-record strategies, which mean the form of the utterance that does not semantically or syntactically align to the request or demand of something. The intended meanings need to be picked up by the hearer through implication. So refer back to the earlier example of the situations. So for this part, the utterance would be, I can't really concentrate on my work. So this show that the speaker did not clearly tell the roommate to lower the music. Instead, it gives a reason which the hearer must interpret the relevance to the context, which is the loud music.
So now I'll be explaining the cultural consideration in Brown and Levinson's model. Brown and Levinson consider their model to be universal and can be applied to all cultures. However, it raises criticism from scholars, especially those who study East Asian politeness. These scholars argue that Brown and Levinson's model is too focused on the wants of individuals, hence making the model too Western to be called universal. They also argued that Brown and Levinson failed to take the community-oriented nature of Asian culture into account. In response to the criticism, Brown and Levinson defended their position in the second edition of their volume, stating that cultural differences exist without a doubt and it narrows down to the details of how people speak. They also mentioned that every society has its preferred politeness style and also defended their model by saying that their framework provides a general or primary descriptive format. So what does this mean? It means that yes, cultural differences exist and society will have its own preferred strategies on politeness, but Brown and Levinson's model is meant to be a general template for scholars and is still useful for them to describe or compare cultures. Brown and Levinson's model offers a comprehensive model for understanding how politeness works in communication. This model shows that face is a central concept to communication, and its 2 strategies, which are positive and negative, are used to manage face-threatening acts, or also known as FTA. Although this model has faced criticism by scholars studying East Asian cultures for being too Western-focused, this model remains a flexible framework, providing a primary descriptive format. In conclusion, the model is a useful tool in analyzing and comparing politeness among cultures. These are our list of references. Thank you for listening, everyone.